At the beginning of 2024, many assumed the last two men to serve as U.S. president, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, would be running against each other again in November.
What's Joe Biden going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? Here's my answer. I am running, and we're going to win.
We're doing great in Nevada. We're doing great in Arizona. We're doing great, really good in North Carolina.
By the end of the year, Trump was president-elect, but no one would have guessed how things played out along the way. Biden, the incumbent, thought he could campaign and win on a strong economy. Voters disagreed. Unusually for the U.S. public, they also judged Biden's handling of foreign affairs, namely the war on Gaza. The deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians angered many Arab and Muslim citizens and sparked campus protests. The result? Fewer Democratic votes from these groups in November, especially in swing states such as Michigan. Biden's age became a big problem after he debated Trump in June. Soon, Biden was out of the race. Kamala Harris took his place.
I will always, I promise, put the middle class and working families first.
However, the early enthusiasm for Harris's candidacy wasn't enough to beat Trump. If anything, 2 assassination attempts invigorated Trump's campaign. Voters dismissed warnings from Harris and some Republicans that a second Trump presidency would be akin to a dictatorship.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
In her concession speech, Harris called on her supporters to keep fighting.
This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
Ignoring the tradition of one president at a time, Trump spent the rest of 2024 preparing to deport millions of undocumented residents. Trump tried to force a government shutdown to embarrass Biden. He also repeated his threats to impose tariffs on goods from America's biggest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China. Trump's support for Israel will continue, but no clear plans yet for dealing with Syria and Iran or for ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. After 4 years of relatively old-style politics by the Biden administration, the incoming Trump administration is already shaking things up, both in foreign policy and domestic affairs. Rosiland, Jordan, Al Jazeera, the White House.
Let's take this on with Thomas Gift, who's the director of the Centre on US Politics at University College London. Joins us now from Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. Thomas, great to have you with us. First up, how do you assess the incoming Trump presidency? He's made a lot of promises. Will he keep them, especially on imposing tariffs?
Thanks so much for having me, Nick. It's great to be with you. I think some of his promises Donald Trump will keep. Of course, some of his promises he won't keep. When it comes to tariffs, I do expect him to impose taxes on imports to the United States. They may not reach the 10 to 20% on all countries or the upwards of 60% on imports from China. But this is one issue on which he has been very ideologically consistent. He's talked about it a lot in his campaign, and I think he has to do something because he says that he has a mandate for it. And whenever it comes to Donald Trump's next 4 years, really, we have to think about these next 2 years, and maybe even the first 100 days, because that's where Donald Trump gets essentially the honeymoon period, has Congress at his back, and sort of the winds helping him. So what he needs to get through, I think, has to be right at the start.
Right. What's your sense on the major role that Elon Musk seems to be assuming, or at least allowed to assume?
Well, Trump doesn't like to share the spotlight. We know that, which is why there's an expiration date on every single one of his close advisors. Trump likes getting the credit. He likes the adulation. He likes the cameras focused on him. So you know that Democrats are going to try to get under Trump's skin with all the talk of President Elon Musk. I think the very fact that Trump had to deny that Elon Musk is running the show is, starting to irk him. So this is a calculated strategy by Democrats to drive a wedge between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, but there is absolutely no dispute that he is playing a very key role, especially when it comes to personnel. He was out on the campaign trail beforehand. He's pushing key agenda items on immigration, on taxes, on regulation now. So he's going to play an outsized role, at least while Musk and Trump are sort of on the good
You let me put you on the spot there. So do you think it'll last, this relationship?
I really don't think that it's going to last. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are two of the biggest egos that they are. I just can't imagine that, those are not going to come into conflict at some point, whether that's over personality differences or whether that's over policy differences. As I mentioned before, every one of Donald Trump's close advisors really has a shelf life. We've seen that in the past. You're on the in with Donald Trump until you're on the out, and then he doesn't know you and never, listen to you from the outset. I expect we're going to see something very similar with Elon Musk. It's more a question of, when that's going to happen rather than if it's going to happen.
What about just how united the Republicans are, especially given the debate over the spending bill that we saw? Are we right in assuming that the Republicans are right behind their man?
So that's a really good question, because what we saw with the fiasco over the recent spending bill is that Republicans in Congress can't seem to govern without Democratic support. And that's because the GOP is so ideologically fractured. Half of the party is kind of business as usual. Half of the party wants to figuratively blow up the system. So it's very possible that the optimal strategy for the anti-Trump resistance is to simply let the Republican Party implode on itself. And this is sort of the cyclical nature of politics. A party is elected with a mandate. They overinterpret that mandate. They go too far. That could happen with Donald Trump. He certainly is coming in with a huge amount of enthusiasm from his base, but still there's a sizable fraction of Republicans, particularly in the Senate, but also in the House, who don't feel like they're going to be in lockstep with every single thing that Donald Trump does. That's also going to be reflected in the debate over who's the next House Speaker. Will it be Mike Johnson or will it be someone else?
Well, whatever way you look at it, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all pans out. Thomas, appreciate that. Thomas Gift speaking to us there. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.